I hadn't seen Grandma in 3 years. After the divorce, Mum and I moved across the country, and we couldn't afford to visit. Or maybe Mum just didn't want to. But when her new boyfriend gave her tickets to Costa Rica, she suddenly thought it was a great idea for me to spend a week with Grandma.
Come on, Ava, Grandma's great. She'll teach you how to knit and bake cookies.
As I arrived at Grandma's house, something felt off. She looked the same, white hair, blue eyes, but she seemed distant, almost cold.
"Hello, my dear,"
she said, smiling in a way that didn't quite reach her eyes. The first few days were okay. We baked cookies and talked, but there were moments when Grandma acted strangely. She forgot my name once, calling me every name she could think of. What was even stranger was when Grandma warned me not to go into the basement, giving only a brief explanation.
"It's dangerous. If you go down there, I'll punish you in the most painful way."
I swallowed hard and nodded, unsure of what to say. Then she smiled and said she was just joking, but the way she laughed sent chills down my spine. I forced a smile, but I couldn't hide the disappointment. That basement had once been a treasure trove of memories. But I told myself it was for my safety and tried to push the thought aside. That night, I woke up with a dry throat and went to the kitchen for a glass of water. As I passed through the dimly lit hallway, I saw her, Grandma, sitting in her old armchair in the living room. She wasn't knitting or reading like she usually did. Instead, she was completely still, her body rigid, eyes locked on me. Her eyes flicked toward me, but they weren't the warm eyes I remembered. They darted back and forth, unnervingly fast, as if they were searching for something, or someone. My heart pounded in my chest as I backed away. She didn't respond, didn't move, just kept staring with those wild, rolling eyes. I turned and bolted back to my room, slamming the door behind me, trying to shake the image from my mind. The next morning, I cautiously asked her about it. "Grandma, were you up last night? You were staring at me." She looked at me, puzzled.
"I don't remember that, dear. Must have been sleepwalking or something."
But there was a heaviness in her voice that didn't sit right with me. Her tone was deeper than usual, and her movements seemed sluggish, almost disjointed. All day, I watched her closely. She walked with a strange, uneven gait, and her speech was off, like it took extra effort to form words. Something was terribly wrong, but I couldn't put my finger on it. That night, as she slept, I heard something, faint, muffled cries. I followed the strange sound out of the room and down the hallway. They were coming from the basement. I froze, listening intently, and my blood ran cold when I recognized the voice. It was Grandma's voice, but it was pleading, desperate. Without thinking, I grabbed the old key hanging by the kitchen door and crept down to the basement. The stairs creaked under my weight and the air grew colder with each step. When I reached the bottom, I could barely breathe. There, on an old surgical table, was my grandmother, my real grandmother. Her head was bandaged, but I could see where the scalp had been crudely cut, revealing bone beneath. Her eyes were missing, just empty sockets staring up at the ceiling. Tears streamed down her face as she whimpered.
"Ava, don't! It's not me. Up there, it's not me."
"Grandma!" I rushed to her side, fumbling with the chains that bound her to the table. "I'll get you out of here, I promise." But as I struggled with the lock, I heard the basement door creak open behind me. I turned slowly, my blood turning to ice as I saw the other grandma, no, the thing pretending to be her, standing at the top of the stairs. Its eyes, no longer darting, were fixed on me with a cold, furious stare.
"Oh, Ava, you shouldn't have come down here,"
it said, its voice hollow and echoing in the small space.
"Now you know too much."
I backed away, my hands shaking. What the hell are you?"
I am what you see. I take what is mine. Memories, life, identity. But This body and this mind is too weak. I want yours.
In a flash, the thing leaped off the stairs and was on me before I could react, its hands like icy claws gripping my arms with inhuman strength. I screamed, but it was drowned out by the creature's growl, a deep sound that sent a jolt of terror through my entire body. My head hit the cold stone, and for a moment, the world spun, dark spots dancing in my vision. I struggled against its grip, but it was too strong, its fingers digging painfully into my skin. Its face inches from mine, so close I could feel its icy breath against my cheek.
But now, you'll end up just like her, a hollow shell.
The creature's other hand moved to my face, and I felt its cold fingers brush against my temple. The touch sent a shockwave of pain through my skull, like needles being driven into my brain. I cried out, thrashing against its hold, but it only tightened its grip. "Stop! Please! Don't do this!" But the creature only smiled wider, its teeth unnervingly sharp, almost predatory.
You're mine now, Ava. And when I'm done, no one will ever know you existed.
It was past midnight, and my room was lit only by the blue glow of my computer screen. I was always curious about the boundaries of technology, so I decided to test the limits of an AI art generator. I'd been messing around with different prompts just for fun. Then an idea popped into my head, a twisted, dark idea that I immediately regretted. I typed in, "the face of my killer." As soon as I hit enter, I felt a shiver run down my spine. The AI whirred into action, and I stared at the screen, waiting. Normally, the AI would produce 4 different images, each slightly off in some way, distorted fingers, mismatched eyes, or odd backgrounds. But this time, something was different. The screen flickered and 4 images appeared. All the same, the face was hauntingly realistic. No warped features or strange lighting. Just the same man, repeated 4 times. He looked to be in his 30s, with greasy auburn hair slicked back from his pale, sweaty forehead. His lips curled into a sneer, as if mocking me for even daring to summon him. He wore a filthy black t-shirt under a grimy red and black apron, leaning casually on a dirty formica table in a grimy kitchen. A chainsaw rested on the table, perfectly rendered as if it had been photographed. But it was his eyes that caught my attention. Beady black eyes that seemed to look straight through the screen and into my soul. I couldn't shake the feeling that he was staring directly at me. The clock on my screen read 1:13 a.m. How long had I been staring at that face? Anxiety clawed at my chest, and I had an overwhelming urge to delete the image, block the AI. But instead, I typed in a new prompt. The face of my future lover. The AI churned out distorted, shadowy figures, none of them remotely similar to the man in the previous image. I tried other prompts. A friend's face, my next-door neighbor, a stranger at the park. Nothing. No matter what I tried, none of the images came close to resembling the man who seemed so real, so present. Maybe it was just a glitch, I told myself. A one-off error in the software. But deep down, I wasn't convinced.
Hey, Bobby!
The next day, I couldn't get the man's face out of my mind. He haunted my thoughts, his sneer mocking me whenever I closed my eyes. I still couldn't believe what happened last night, so I ran the AI again. I typed another prompt. What is my killer doing right now? The response was unsettling. A blurry image that gradually revealed itself to be a man lying on a mattress in a dimly lit room. I felt a chill as I recognized the same man from the previous images. The realism was unnerving. It was like a photograph taken from some unseen camera in his room. I tried another prompt. Show me my killer's house from the street. This time, the images were even more detailed, showing a nondescript house with a broken fence and a rusted car in the driveway. I could even make out the street sign in the background. I looked up the address on the internet, and it was real and only about 5 kilometers from me. The whole thing felt too real, too specific. I told myself it was just a coincidence, a fluke of the AI's programming. But I couldn't shake the feeling that this was more than just a coincidence. I became obsessed, spending hours generating images of this man's life. I knew his name was Ronnie from a name tag in one of the images. I saw his messy room, his girlfriend Katie, and even the brand of cigarettes he smoked. The more I saw, the more I felt like I was intruding on something private, something forbidden. But Ronnie seemed to sense it too. The images showed him getting more paranoid, looking over his shoulder, staring directly into the camera as if he knew I was watching. Finally, I decided to stop. The whole thing was getting out of hand. But just as I resolved to let it go, the AI showed me something that froze my blood. I'd typed in the prompt, "My killer right now." Ronnie stood in the dim kitchen, gripping a saw, its blade slick with blood. His eyes locked onto mine with a twisted grin, daring me to move. On the floor, in dark, smeared letters, the chilling words, "I can see you too," were written in blood, adding an air of ominous dread that made my heart race. I shut my computer, heart pounding in my chest. This wasn't just a glitch anymore. This was something far more sinister, something that defied explanation. I tried to stop after that, but I couldn't. It was like an addiction. I needed to see more, to know more. Every day I'd check in on Ronnie, watching him as he went about his life, feeling a sick thrill at the thought that he might somehow know I was there and planning to kill me. Then one day the images stopped being so mundane. I typed in, "My killer, current location," and the AI generated a view of a street that looked unsettlingly familiar. It was my street. My hands shook as I refreshed the image, again and again, watching as the figure drew nearer. It was Ronnie, without a doubt. He was coming for me. Panic set in. I locked every door and window, grabbed the largest knife I could find, and sat in the dark, waiting. My computer screen showed my front door now, the image slowly processing. I didn't need to look. I already knew what it would show. The doorknob rattled. My breath caught in my throat as the door slowly creaked open. I raised the knife, my heart pounding in my chest. There he was, standing in the doorway, exactly as the AI had shown him.
You shouldn't have been watching.
That was creepy. It was just another quiet evening at home. My wife Anna and I were lounging on the couch, scrolling through our phones. Anna stumbled upon a new trend on TikTok, and her face lit up with that mischievous smile I knew so well. Anna loved playing pranks, and I was often her favorite target. She just laughed, that glint of mischief still in her eyes.
I know, right? Creepy, but kind of funny too. Want to try something like that?
I chuckled nervously. No thanks, I'm not a fan of this stuff. Anna shrugged, standing up and stretching.
Suit yourself. I thought it was pretty fun.
I watched her walk into the kitchen, her footsteps echoing softly. Anna always loved a good scare, but this felt different. As the evening wore on, I settled back into my chair, trying to focus on a book. The house was quiet, and I found myself glancing up every few minutes, half expecting Anna to jump out and startle me. But she didn't. The silence stretched on, almost unnaturally so. I got up, deciding to find her, and suggested we watch something light before bed. As I walked down the hallway, I frozen. There in the dim light, I saw a figure standing at the end of the hall. It was Anna, but she looked different. Her posture was rigid, her face partially obscured by her hair. And that smile, wide, fixed and unnerving, was exactly like the woman in the video. I took a cautious step forward, but she didn't move. "Come on, Anna, stop joking. This isn't funny," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Still nothing. The air around us felt thick, oppressive. I took another step, my heart pounding. "Anna, please, you're scaring me." Then she moved, not towards me, but slowly down the hall. Gathering all the courage I had left, I followed her, my footsteps echoing in the quiet house. When I reached the top of the stairs, I saw the bedroom door ajar. I pushed the door open slowly. Anna stood in the middle of the room, her back to me. Her shoulders were tense and her hands were clenched into fists at her sides. "Anna, please, stop this. You're really scaring me," I pleaded, my voice barely a whisper. She turned slowly, her movements unnaturally stiff. Her eyes. I've never seen eyes like that. They were hungry, predatory. I stumbled back, my heart racing. "Stay away! Please, stay away!" I shouted, panic flooding my chest. But she kept coming, that smile never wavering. I turned and ran. I bolted down the stairs, my mind a whirlwind of terror. I had to get out. I stopped dead in my tracks as I heard a noise from the yard. I didn't want to look, but something compelled me to move towards the back door, leading to the yard. In the darkness, I saw Anna standing there, her back to me again. But what made my blood run cold was what she was holding in her hands. A dead rat. Anna bent down and took a bite out of the rat's corpse, blood and fur splattering everywhere. I watched in horror as the scene unfolded, my stomach churning. She looked up, her eyes bloodshot, and that smile, wider than ever, with blood dripping down the corners of her mouth. I couldn't stay here. I couldn't face whatever this thing was that wasn't Anna. Without hesitation, I turned and bolted out the front door. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely turn the knob. When I finally got the door open, I glanced back. Anna stood there in the doorway watching me, that smile still etched on her face. I didn't wait any longer. I sprinted out into the night, my breath coming in ragged gasps. I didn't stop until I reached the car, fumbling with the keys in my pocket. As I started the engine and sped away, I glanced in the rearview mirror. She was standing there in the doorway, her silhouette stark against the light. And that smile, that terrifying, unnatural smile. I don't know what happened to my wife. I don't know if she was possessed or if it was some prank gone horribly wrong. All I know is that I can't go back. That smile burned into my memory, haunts me every time I close my eyes. And the worst part is, I can't stop smiling.